In the secluded heart of whispering willows, where the canopy stretched wide and the air hummed with ancient secrets, there lived a young woman named Cassandra. She possessed a gift bestowed upon no other. She could interpret the cryptic whispers of the spirits that spoke through the rustling leaves of the ancient willow trees. These spirits, guardians of age-old knowledge and bearers of the forest's deepest secrets, found their voice through Cassandra. The forest was a labyrinth of green, a place where the sun's rays barely touched the ground, dappling the underbrush with specks of light. It was here, amid the knotted roots and sprawling branches, that Cassandra spent her days, listening to the soft murmurs of the trees. The spirits told tales of times long past, of the ebb and flow of natural magic that pulsed through the veins of the forest. Cassandra's sole companion on this journey was Ethan, a woodsman whose life was as intertwined with the forest as the ivy that clung to the ancient oaks. With his rugged axe slung over his shoulder and a keen eye that missed no detail of the wilderness, Ethan knew every trail, every hidden glade, every secret the forest held. His knowledge of the woods was unparalleled, making him an invaluable ally to Cassandra. Together, they uncovered a plot that chilled the marrow in their bones. Whispered in hushed tones through the trembling leaves, the spirits revealed a nefarious scheme brewing in the shadows. Malevolent entities, spirits corrupted and twisted by a thirst for power, sought to shatter the barrier that separated their realm from the human world. These dark spirits yearned to spill into the mortal lands, to spread their shadow and chaos where peace and life currently resided. Ethan and Cassandra stood at the edge of an unseen war, a battle for the very soul of the forest and the world beyond. The knowledge of this looming threat weighed heavily upon them, a silent storm brewing in the heart of whispering willows. The tranquility of the forest, once a soothing balm to Cassandra's spirit, now thrummed with an undercurrent of impending peril. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of fiery orange and deep purple, Cassandra and Ethan prepared for the journey ahead. They knew the path before them was fraught with danger, a journey through shadowed woods and into the heart of an ancient mystery. The fate of their world hung precariously in the balance, and it was upon their shoulders that the responsibility to protect it rested. In the stillness of the forest, as night descended like a velvet curtain, Cassandra whispered a silent prayer to the spirits. She vowed to safeguard the balance, to stand as a beacon against the encroaching darkness. With Ethan by her side, a steadfast guardian of the wilds, they stepped forward into the unknown, ready to face whatever trials lay ahead in the whispering shadows of the willows. As dawn's first light filtered through the dense canopy of whispering willows, Cassandra and Ethan set out under a mist-veiled sky. The forest, alive with the morning chorus of birds and the gentle rustle of leaves, held an air of mystique in the early hours. They trod along a path seldom used, a trail that wound its way deeper into the heart of the forest, where ancient secrets lay hidden under layers of moss and time. It was on this misty morning that fate led Cassandra to an extraordinary discovery. In a secluded glen, where the trees seemed to lean in as if guarding a secret, she noticed something glinting under a fallen oak. The massive tree, ancient and gnarled, had succumbed to time and lay like a slumbering giant upon the earth. Beneath its massive trunk, half buried in the rich, damp soil, was a locket. The locket was of exquisite craftsmanship, its surface adorned with intricate engravings that seemed to dance and shift in the dappled sunlight. Cassandra, with a mixture of curiosity and reverence, reached out and gently unearthed it from its earthen grave. The metal was cool to the touch, and as she brushed away the dirt, the locket seemed to pulsate with a life of its own. Ethan watched with a mixture of awe and caution as Cassandra, with delicate fingers, opened the locket. Inside, there was nothing but a small, empty chamber, yet the air around them seemed to thrum with energy. Without a word, Cassandra clasped the locket around her neck. The moment it rested against her skin, a surge of power coursed through her. The whispers of the spirits, once faint and elusive, now rang clear and strong in her mind. It was as if a veil had been lifted, allowing her to hear the deepest secrets and oldest stories of the forest. But this newfound clarity came with unforeseen consequences. The locket, a relic imbued with ancient magic, did not only amplify Cassandra's connection to the benevolent spirits of the forest. It also resonated like a beacon in the dark, drawing the attention of malevolent entities that lurked in the forgotten corners of Whispering Willows. As Cassandra and Ethan ventured further, a sense of unease began to creep over them. The forest, once a friend and ally, now watched them with unseen eyes. Shadows seemed to stretch and twist in unnatural ways, and the air grew thick with a sense of foreboding. The locket, warm against Cassandra's skin, pulsed like a heartbeat, a constant reminder of the power she now wielded and the dark forces it had awakened. Unbeknownst to them, sinister entities stirred in the depths of the forest, drawn by the locket's call. These dark spirits, ancient and vengeful, had been awakened from their slumber, and now turned their gaze upon Cassandra and Ethan, marking them as targets in their quest to breach the barrier between worlds. As they delved deeper into the heart of the forest, the line between ally and enemy blurred. Cassandra, with the locket's power at her command, stood at the precipice of a hidden world, a realm where light and dark converged. The journey ahead promised not only wonders, but also perils that lurked in the shadowed recesses of Whispering Willows, waiting for their moment to strike. The forest of Whispering Willows, with its tangled undergrowth and ancient trees, held secrets known only to a few. Among these secrets was the ritual of binding, a powerful and arcane rite capable of reinforcing the barrier between the spirit and human realms. Understanding the gravity of their task, Cassandra and Ethan set out to gather the rare ingredients needed for this ritual, each component as elusive and mysterious as the forest itself. Their quest led them to the deepest, most untouched parts of the forest. These were places where the sun rarely penetrated, where the trees grew so dense that daylight turned to twilight. The air here was thick with the scent of damp earth and old magic, a tangible reminder of the age and power that resided within the forest. The first ingredient they sought was the heart of the forest, a rare gemstone said to be the crystallized essence of the forest's life force. Legends spoke of it residing in the Grove of Whispers, a sacred site where the spirits' voices were said to be the loudest. Navigating through the grove, Cassandra's connection to the spirits guided them. They found the gemstone nestled within the roots of the oldest willow tree, its surface shimmering with an ethereal light. Next, they needed the moon nectar, a dew-like substance that formed only under the light of a full moon. This rare dew was known to appear on the petals of the midnight bloom, a flower that bloomed solely under the moon's embrace. On the night of the full moon, Cassandra and Ethan journeyed through the nocturnal forest, guided by the lunar glow. In a moonlit clearing, they found the elusive flowers, their petals glistening with the precious dew. The final ingredient was the most dangerous to procure: the breath of the shadows, a vaporous essence exhaled by the oldest and most powerful of the dark spirits. To obtain it, they had to venture into the heart of darkness, a part of the forest where light seemed to fear to tread. Here the trees were twisted, their branches clawing at the sky, and the air was heavy with a malevolent presence. In this eerie part of the forest, Cassandra's locket pulsed with a foreboding energy, as if resonating with the dark spirits that lurked in the shadows. Using her amplified connection to the spirits, Cassandra communicated with them, negotiating for their breath in exchange for the promise of keeping the barrier intact. It was a tense and perilous encounter, but ultimately, the dark spirits relented, exhaling a wisp of their essence into a vial Ethan carefully prepared. With all the ingredients in their possession, Cassandra and Ethan prepared to return to the heart of the forest to perform the ritual of binding. Their journey back was fraught with tension, as they felt the watchful eyes of the forest upon them, both benevolent and malevolent. The balance of power was shifting, and they knew that the ritual they were about to perform would tip the scales in a decisive way. As they walked, Cassandra pondered the weight of their task. The ritual of binding was not just a means to strengthen the barrier, it was a reaffirmation of the ancient pact between the human and spirit worlds. It was a testament to the trust and respect that must exist between them. With the rare ingredients secured and the fate of both worlds resting in their hands, Cassandra and Ethan steeled themselves for the challenges that lay ahead in performing the ancient and powerful ritual of binding. After securing the ingredients for the ritual of binding, Cassandra and Ethan continued their journey through the forest of whispering willows. However, as they ventured deeper into the woods, they began to witness unsettling transformations. The lush, vibrant greenery that once symbolized the forest's vitality was now marred by pockets of decay and withering. It was as if the very essence of the forest was being sapped away, leaving behind a husk of its former glory. The air grew thick with an ominous stillness, a stark contrast to the usual symphony of life that echoed through the trees. Leaves that were once a vibrant green now hung limp and discolored, and the soil beneath their feet, once rich and fertile, had turned to a lifeless grey. It was clear that the malevolent spirit's influence was not just a looming threat, but a present and active force corrupting the heart of the forest. Cassandra, with the ancient locket clasped tightly around her neck, felt a profound sadness emanating from the spirits of the forest. Their whispers, once filled with ancient wisdom and tales of old, now carried a tone of despair and urgency. The forest was suffering, its natural balance disrupted by the dark spirit's growing power. In some areas, the corruption was so severe that the very trees seemed to recoil from their touch. Bark that once felt rough and textured under their hands now slithered away like serpents, and vines retracted into the shadows as they approached. The forest, once a sanctuary and home to Cassandra, now felt alien and hostile. The spirit's pain was palpable, a shared agony that resonated with every step they took. Ethan, ever the pragmatic woodsman, noted the changes with a grim determination. He knew that the forest's decline was not just a sign of spiritual turmoil, but also a harbinger of ecological disaster. If the malevolent spirits were not stopped, the consequences would extend far beyond the mystical realm, threatening the very cycle of life and death that sustained the forest. As they navigated through the dying woods, Cassandra and Ethan encountered wildlife affected by the corruption. Animals that once roamed the forest freely were now scarce, and those they did find exhibited strange behaviors as if driven mad by the unseen forces at work. Birds flew erratically, their songs discordant, and small creatures scurried in the underbrush with a frenzied panic. The sight of the once thriving ecosystem in distress solidified their resolve. The ritual of binding was not just a means to thwart the spirit's escape. It was a crucial step in healing the forest and restoring the natural order. With each step, they felt the weight of their responsibility, not only to the human world, but to the natural world that depended on the delicate balance between the two realms. Cassandra, drawing strength from her deep connection to the spirits, and Ethan, with his unwavering resolve to protect the forest, pressed on through the corrupted woods. They knew that time was of the essence, and with each passing moment, the malevolent spirit's influence grew stronger. The task ahead was daunting, but they were determined to restore the forest to its former glory and preserve the delicate harmony that had been disrupted by the shadows encroaching upon whispering willows. In the midst of their arduous journey, Cassandra and Ethan found themselves in an ancient grove, a place seemingly untouched by time and the creeping corruption that afflicted the rest of the forest. The grove was a sanctum of tranquility, with towering trees that formed a cathedral-like canopy overhead. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, casting a kaleidoscope of light upon the ground. It was a stark contrast to the decaying woods they had traversed. The heart of this grove held a large, flat stone, weathered by the ages but still standing as a testament to the forest's ancient history. Upon this stone were carvings, etchings so old that they seemed to have been part of the rock itself. The carvings depicted a series of intricate symbols and images, weaving a story that spoke of a time long past and a future yet to unfold. Cassandra, drawn to the carvings by an inexplicable force, felt the locket around her neck pulsate with a warm glow. As she traced her fingers over the ancient markings, a rush of understanding flooded through her. The carvings told of a prophecy, a foretelling that spoke of a guardian who would stand at the crossroads between two worlds. This guardian would face a monumental choice, a decision that would determine the fate of both the human realm and the spirit world. The prophecy was cryptic, filled with allegories and symbols that spoke of a great balance, a harmony between the natural and the supernatural. It alluded to a time of great upheaval, where the barrier between worlds would weaken and a guardian would rise to restore equilibrium. As Cassandra absorbed the meaning of the prophecy, she felt a deep connection to its words. A realization dawned upon her. She might be the guardian spoken of in the ancient text. Her unique ability to communicate with the spirits, her discovery of the locket, and her involvement in the unfolding events seemed to align eerily with the prophecy's predictions. Ethan, standing beside her, looked upon the carvings with a mixture of awe and concern. He had always known that Cassandra was destined for a greater purpose, but the weight of such a destiny was daunting. He pledged his unwavering support, ready to stand by her side as they faced whatever challenges lay ahead. The discovery of the prophecy added a new dimension to their quest. It was no longer just about performing the ritual of binding. It was about fulfilling a destiny that had been written in the very stones of the forest. Cassandra felt the burden of this responsibility, but also a sense of clarity. Her path, once shrouded in mystery, now seemed to have a direction, guided by the ancient words carved into the rock. With a renewed sense of purpose, Cassandra and Ethan left the grove, the prophecy etched not only in the stone, but also in their hearts. They knew that the path ahead would be fraught with challenges, but also that it was a path that Cassandra was meant to walk. The fate of two worlds rested on the shoulders of the guardian, foretold by the prophecy, and Cassandra was ready to embrace that role, no matter the cost. Deep within the labyrinthine heart of whispering willows, where the trees whispered secrets lost to time, Cassandra and Ethan stumbled upon a hidden enclave. It was here, shrouded by the embrace of ancient boughs, that they encountered an old hermit, a recluse whose existence was but a legend to the villagers. This hermit, known only as Orin, was a figure of mystery, an enchanter who had lived among the spirits and shadows for decades, his eyes reflecting the depth of his knowledge and the weight of his years, flickered with recognition as he gazed upon Cassandra. He had been expecting her, guided by visions only he could see. Orin spoke of sacrificial magic, an ancient and potent form of sorcery that could significantly amplify Cassandra's abilities to communicate with and influence the spirit world. This magic, however, was not without its price. It demanded a sacrifice of the caster's own life force, a fragment of their very essence. Cassandra listened, her heart heavy with the gravity of Orin's words. The magic he described was formidable, capable of tipping the scales in their favor. But the cost it exacted was steep. A portion of her life surrendered to the arcane forces. Ethan, ever protective, voiced his concerns. He feared the toll this magic might take on Cassandra, the potential harm it could cause. Yet he also understood the direness of their situation, the necessity of every advantage they could muster against the encroaching darkness. Cassandra wrestled with the decision. The forest of whispering willows, her home, was on the brink of ruin, its fate intertwined with that of the human world. The malevolent spirits grew stronger by the day, their shadows seeping further into the realm of the living. After much contemplation, Cassandra accepted the burden of sacrificial magic. The fate of both worlds, the forest she loved and the people she sought to protect, hung in the balance. This sacrifice, though personal and painful, was a price she was willing to pay to preserve the delicate harmony between the natural and the supernatural. Orin, understanding the resolve in her eyes, guided her through the intricate and solemn ritual of the magic. As she chanted the ancient incantations, Cassandra felt a part of her being pulled away, a piece of her soul intertwining with the mystic energies. The sensation was both exhilarating and terrifying, a fusion of power and loss. When the ritual was complete, Cassandra felt a newfound strength coursing through her. The whispers of the spirits were clearer, more potent than ever before. Yet, there was also a faint echo of emptiness within her, a reminder of the sacrifice she had made. With Orin's cryptic blessings and warnings echoing in their ears, Cassandra and Ethan departed from the hermit's enclave. The tranquility of the village, nestled at the edge of whispering willows, was shattered one fateful night. As the moon rose high, casting its pale light over the thatched roofs and cobblestone streets, a sinister force emerged from the forest. Shadows, ethereal and malevolent, seeped into the village like tendrils of smoke, their forms shifting and twisting in the moonlight. These shadow creatures, as thin as mist but as deadly as the darkest night, began their silent invasion. They moved with eerie grace, slipping through cracks and crevices, their presence a chilling whisper against the skin. The villagers, unprepared for such an assault, were engulfed in a tide of panic and fear. Ethan and Cassandra, alerted by the sudden commotion, rushed towards the village. As they arrived, they witnessed the chaos unfolding. The villagers, armed with nothing but lanterns and tools, were desperately trying to fend off the invading shadows, but their efforts were in vain. The ethereal nature of the creatures made them nearly impervious to physical attacks. Cassandra, drawing upon the sacrificial magic she had embraced, extended her hands towards the encroaching darkness. Her eyes glowed with an inner light, and the ancient locket around her neck pulsed with power. Words of an old, forgotten language fell from her lips, a chant that resonated with the energy of the forest itself. The shadows recoiled at her command, their forms flickering as if in pain. Cassandra's connection to the spirit world, now amplified by the sacrificial magic, allowed her to exert influence over these dark entities. It was a battle of wills, a struggle between light and dark, played out under the watchful eyes of the moon. Ethan, ever resourceful, rallied the villagers. With his guidance, they began to use light as a weapon, brandishing torches and lanterns to hold back the shadows. The village square became a battleground, where the flickering flames danced with the swirling darkness, a stark contrast of hope and despair. The fight was grueling. Cassandra, with each incantation, felt the strain of her sacrificial magic. The loss of a part of her essence was a constant drain, a reminder of the price she had paid for this power. Yet she stood resolute, a beacon of light amidst the encroaching shadows. Ethan, fighting alongside her, proved to be a formidable force. His knowledge of the forest and its mysteries, combined with his unwavering courage, made him an anchor in the storm of chaos. He protected Cassandra as she chanted, ensuring no shadow crept too close. Together, they pushed back the invasion, driving the shadows back towards the forest from whence they came. The villagers, inspired by their bravery, fought with renewed vigor, their fear transformed into defiance. As the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, the shadow creatures dissipated like mist under the sun's warming embrace. The village, though shaken, had survived the night. The villagers, huddled together, whispered of the courage of Cassandra and Ethan, who had stood as guardians against the darkness. The invasion of the shadows was a grim reminder of the growing threat that loomed over both the human and spirit worlds. For Cassandra and Ethan, it was a clear sign that their battle was far from over. The ritual of binding was more crucial than ever, a necessary step to seal the weakening barrier and protect their world from the encroaching darkness. As the village slowly came back to life, recovering from the night's ordeal, Cassandra and Ethan prepared to continue their quest. In the aftermath of the shadow invasion, as the village of Whispering Willows slowly mended its wounds, a disturbing discovery came to light. Among the villagers, a young man named Tomas had fallen victim to a sinister curse. Unknown to all, he had become an unwitting conduit for the spirits, a living bridge between the human and spirit worlds. Tomas, once a jovial and well-loved member of the community, began to exhibit strange behavior. His eyes, once warm and lively, now glowed with an eerie, otherworldly light. Shadows seemed to cling to him, and at times he spoke in tongues, uttering words that chilled the blood of those who heard them. Cassandra, upon learning of Tomas's plight, felt a surge of empathy. She knew all too well the burden of being touched by the spirit world. Accompanied by Ethan, she visited Tomas's humble abode, a small cottage on the village's outskirts, where the air was thick with a palpable sense of dread. As they entered, they found Tomas in a trance-like state, his body racked with spasms as if he were battling an invisible force. The air around him shimmered with a spectral energy, a sign of the spirit's presence within him. Cassandra, using her heightened connection to the spirit realm, reached out with her mind, attempting to communicate with the entities that had ensnared Tomas. The spirits, malevolent and cunning, resisted her efforts. They had found in Tomas a gateway to the human world, a vessel through which they could exert their influence. Cassandra realized with a heavy heart that the spirit's hold on Tomas was strong. Their roots burrowed deep into his soul. Faced with this dire situation, Cassandra was confronted with a harrowing decision. She could attempt to sever the connection between Tomas and the spirits, a risky endeavor that could either free him or cost him his life. The other option was to leave the connection intact, allowing Tomas to live, but leaving a door open for the spirits to enter their world. Ethan stood by her side, a silent pillar of support. He knew the gravity of the decision Cassandra had to make, and though he wished to protect every villager, he also understood the greater danger that the spirits posed. The fate of Tomas was not just a personal tragedy, but a matter of the world's balance. The decision tormented Cassandra. To save one life, she might risk many others. Yet, the thought of sacrificing an innocent soul was anathema to her. She pondered, her heart torn between her duty to the world and her compassion for a single life. In the end, Cassandra's sense of duty prevailed. With a heavy heart and a resolve born of necessity, she chose to sever the connection. The process was delicate and dangerous, a battle of wills fought on the ethereal plane. Cassandra, drawing upon the full extent of her sacrificial magic, chanted ancient incantations, her voice steady but laced with sorrow. The ritual was intense, the air crackling with arcane energy. Tomas writhed in agony as Cassandra worked to untangle the spirit's tendrils from his soul. Ethan watched, his hands clenched into fists, hoping against hope for a favorable outcome. After what seemed like an eternity, the ritual reached its climax. With a final, determined incantation, Cassandra shattered the connection. The spirits, expelled from Thomas's body, screamed in fury before dissipating into the ether. The glow in his eyes faded, and the shadows retreated from his form. He was free from the spirit's grasp, but the ordeal had left him weak and fragile. Cassandra, exhausted and heartbroken, knew that her decision, though painful, was necessary. She had saved the village from a greater threat, but the cost of such a victory weighed heavily on her soul. As they left Tomas's cottage, with the young man now resting and the village safe for the moment, Cassandra and Ethan knew that their journey was far from over. The ritual of binding was more crucial than ever, a necessary step to seal the barrier and prevent further tragedies like that of Thomas. In their relentless quest for answers to combat the encroaching darkness, Cassandra and Ethan ventured beyond the familiar confines of Whispering Willows. Guided by ancient lore and Cassandra's deepening connection to the spirit realm, they sought the ruins of a forgotten civilization rumored to lie hidden within the deepest part of the forest. After days of traversing through dense underbrush and tangled vines, they stumbled upon the remnants of what once was a grand city. The ruins, overtaken by the relentless embrace of nature, stood as silent witnesses to a bygone era. Towering stone structures, now crumbled and moss-covered, loomed above them, their broken arches and fallen columns telling a story of both majesty and ruin. Amidst these relics of the past, Cassandra and Ethan discovered a library, a repository of knowledge preserved against the ravages of time. The library, partially intact, was filled with shelves of ancient texts, scrolls, and tomes, each inscribed with the wisdom of a civilization that had once lived in harmony with the spirits. As Cassandra sifted through the dusty pages, she uncovered the origins of the spirits and the forest. The texts spoke of a time when the boundary between the human and spirit worlds was fluid, a period of unity and mutual respect. The spirits were guardians of nature, entities that maintained the balance and health of the forest. The library also revealed the cause of the rift between the worlds. A cataclysm, born from human greed and a disregard for the natural order, had shattered the harmony. The spirits, once benevolent, had been twisted by the corruption of their once sacred home, turning some into malevolent entities seeking vengeance against those who had wronged them. Armed with this newfound knowledge, Cassandra and Ethan delved deeper into the ancient texts, searching for a way to heal the rift and restore balance. It was here, among the whispers of the past, that they found mention of a powerful ritual, one that could mend the fractured boundary and pacify the restless spirits. This ritual, however, required an understanding of both the human and spirit worlds, a synergy of the two realms' energies. The texts detailed the components and incantations needed, but also warned of the dangers. The ritual had the power to restore balance, but if performed incorrectly, it could further deepen the rift. Ethan, with his practical wisdom and knowledge of the forest, provided the grounding force necessary to comprehend the ritual's complexities. Cassandra, with her connection to the spirit realm and her sacrificial magic, held the key to bridging the gap between the worlds. As they pieced together the information, a plan began to form. They would perform the ritual at the heart of Whispering Willows, where the barrier between the worlds was thinnest. The stakes were high, but the potential to heal the rift and restore harmony was a chance they had to take. With the ancient texts as their guide and a newfound understanding of the spirit's origins, Cassandra and Ethan left the ruins, the weight of their discovery heavy on their shoulders. The ruins of Revelation had provided crucial insight into their battle. The annual Spirit Festival in the village of Whispering Willows was a time-honored tradition, a celebration that marked the harmony between the villagers and the mysterious forces of the forest. This year, however, the festival took on a dire significance. As the villagers prepared for the festivities, unaware of the impending danger, the barrier between the human and spirit worlds grew perilously thin, setting the stage for an unprecedented clash. Cassandra and Ethan, having returned from the ruins with crucial knowledge and a plan to restore balance, realized the festival's timing coincided with the optimal moment to perform the ritual they had learned. But as the day of the festival dawned, a palpable tension hung in the air. The usually joyous atmosphere was tainted with an undercurrent of unease, a premonition of the conflict to come. As night fell and the festival reached its peak, the villagers gathered around bonfires, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames. Music and laughter filled the air, a celebration of life and community. But this semblance of peace was shattered as the veil between the worlds weakened. allowing malevolent spirits to seep into the village. Shadowy figures emerged from the forest, their forms more substantial and menacing than the ethereal invaders of the previous night. These spirits, fueled by resentment and a desire for retribution, descended upon the village, turning the festival into a battleground. Cassandra, standing at the forefront, called upon her sacrificial magic. Her voice, imbued with the power of ancient incantations, rose above the chaos, commanding the spirits to retreat. The locket around her neck glowed with an intense light, a beacon in the darkness that repelled the advancing shadows. Ethan, armed with both sword and knowledge, fought alongside Cassandra. He rallied the villagers, turning their fear into resolve. Together, they formed a line of defense, protecting their homes and loved ones from the onslaught. The villagers, though initially overwhelmed, found strength in Cassandra and Ethan's leadership. Armed with torches and whatever weapons they could muster, they stood their ground against the invading spirits. The battle was fierce, a tumultuous clash of wills and forces. Cassandra's chants echoed through the village, a symphony of power that pushed back against the spirit's rage. Ethan moved through the fray with determination, his actions guided by a deep understanding of what was at stake. Cassandra, drawing upon the last reserves of her strength, channeled the sacrificial magic, her voice a clarion call that pierced the darkness. A wave of energy radiated from the heart of the village, a visible manifestation of the restored barrier. The spirits, unable to withstand this renewed force, were compelled back into their realm. The shadows receded, and the air cleared. The threat of invasion repelled. The villagers, exhausted but victorious, looked around at the aftermath. Their homes were battered and the festival grounds scarred, but they had survived. In the wake of the battle, Cassandra and Ethan stood together, their bond strengthened by the trials they had faced. The Spirit Festival, once a celebration of harmony, had turned into a testament to the villagers' courage and resilience. As they began to tend to their wounded and repair the damage, there was a newfound respect for the fragile balance between their world and the spirit realm. Cassandra and Ethan, having led the defense and restored the barrier, were hailed as heroes, their names forever etched into the village's history. The ritual had restored the barrier, but the harmony between the worlds was still tenuous. They were determined to find a lasting solution, a way to heal the rift and ensure that such a conflict would never threaten their world again. In the aftermath of the tumultuous battle during the Spirit Festival, as the village of Whispering Willows slowly began to recover from the night's events, Cassandra made a critical discovery. While assessing the damage and helping the villagers restore order, she noticed a peculiar flower blooming amidst the wreckage. This flower, known as the lunar blossom, was a rare species that only bloomed during the Spirit Festival, under the light of the full moon. Its petals glowed with a soft, ethereal light, an embodiment of the moon's gentle radiance. The lunar blossom was more than just a botanical rarity. It was a symbol of unity between the two worlds, a natural manifestation of the harmony that once existed. Cassandra, recalling the ancient texts she had studied in the ruins, realized the significance of this discovery. The lunar blossom was the final ingredient needed for the ritual of binding, a crucial component that had eluded them. The flower's unique properties, infused with the energies of both the human and spirit worlds, made it the perfect catalyst to reinforce the barrier and solidify the peace they had fought so hard to achieve. With a sense of urgency, Cassandra and Ethan set about gathering the lunar blossoms. The task was delicate, as the flowers needed to be harvested with care to preserve their mystical properties. Under the soft glow of the moonlight, they moved through the village, collecting the blossoms from the gardens and fields where they had sprung up. As they worked, the villagers, curious about their activity, gathered around. Cassandra explained the importance of the lunar blossoms, and the villagers, understanding the significance, offered to help. It became a communal effort, a village united in a cause that symbolized their hope for a lasting peace with the spirit world. Under the silver gaze of the full moon, Cassandra and Ethan stood ready to perform the ritual of binding in the heart of Whispering Willows. The forest around them was alive with an anticipatory hush, as if the trees and creatures themselves were holding their breath, awaiting the outcome of the ritual that would determine their fate. The ritual site was carefully chosen, a clearing surrounded by ancient willows, their branches swaying gently in the night breeze. The ground was adorned with a circle of lunar blossoms, their petals now wilted, but still radiating a faint, otherworldly light. At the center of the circle, Cassandra and Ethan had placed the heart of the forest, the moon nectar, and the breath of the shadows, the components they had painstakingly gathered. As the ritual began, Cassandra took her position within the circle, her voice lifting in an ancient chant that echoed through the woods. The words were old, older than the forest itself, a language that spoke directly to the essence of the world. Ethan, standing guard at the edge of the circle, watched over her, his presence a silent pillar of strength and support. The air around them began to shimmer, charged with arcane energy. The heart of the forest glowed with a deep emerald light, pulsating in time with Cassandra's incantations. The moon nectar, contained in a crystal vial, sparkled like liquid starlight, casting a luminescent sheen over the clearing. The breath of the shadows, captured in its ethereal form, swirled around Cassandra, responding to the power of her voice. As Cassandra chanted, the boundary between the human and spirit world seemed to grow more tangible, a visible membrane that shimmered in the moonlight. The ritual was drawing upon the energy of the forest, the spirits, and the very essence of the moon itself. The lunar blossoms, serving as a conduit for this energy, began to disintegrate into motes of light, their purpose fulfilled. The forest vibrated with ancient power, a resonance that was felt in the bones of every living creature. The barrier between the worlds, weakened by conflict and neglect, began to strengthen and solidify. The malevolent spirits, sensing the change, recoiled from the renewed barrier, their attempts to invade repelled by the ritual's force. Cassandra's voice rose to a crescendo, her final words ringing out with a definitive clarity. A surge of energy, visible as a radiant wave, emanated from the ritual site, washing over the forest and beyond. The wave carried with it a sense of peace and restoration, a harmonizing force that sought to mend what had been broken. As the ritual concluded, the clearing fell silent. The full moon continued to bathe the world in its serene light, now reflecting off a strengthened barrier, visible only to those who knew how to look. The forest seemed to breathe a sigh of relief, its ancient guardians whispering words of gratitude and hope. Cassandra, exhausted but filled with a sense of accomplishment, collapsed into Ethan's waiting arms. They had done it. The ritual of binding was complete. The barrier between the worlds was restored, stronger and more resilient than it had been for centuries. As dawn approached, painting the sky with hues of pink and orange, Cassandra and Ethan emerged from the forest. They were greeted by the villagers, who had anxiously awaited the outcome of the ritual. The news of their success spread quickly, filling the village with a sense of joy and relief. The ritual of binding had not only restored the barrier, but had also brought the village and the forest closer together. As the first rays of the sun touched the treetops of Whispering Willows, a new chapter began for the forest and its inhabitants. The threat of invasion had been averted, and a new era of harmony and balance dawned, promising a future where both worlds could coexist in peace.